Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Mystery Unsolved. I am, of course, your host, Justin Bienvenu. And for the season finale of Mystery Unsolved, we are looking into 50s heartthrob James Dean. Now, you may be asking yourself, what's so mysterious or unsolved about James Dean? Well, it's probably not so much him individually, but more or less his car that he drove that led to death. But I suppose there's probably a little bit of mystery and intrigue behind James Dean. So, without further ado, let us get into Mystery Unsolved, James Dean. James Byron Dean was born February 8th, 1931, and he was an American actor and, of course, a, pretty much a cultural icon even by today's standards. And he expressed the disillusionment and social estrangement in his in some of his most notorious films, Rebel Without a Cause and East of Eden. Dean was killed on September 30th, 1955, at the age of 24, as he got into a car accident, which, of course, I will get into in just a moment. So, the crazy thing is, even in today's society, even younger people, younger generation, tend to know who James Dean is, or at least they've heard of him. This is probably because he was just he made that much of an impact that even today we're still talking about him. And also probably because his death is just so out of nowhere. Kind of one of those what ifs. I definitely suppose if you had a list, top 10 list of, actors that could have been or just celebrity profiles that could have been, James Dean's definitely at the top of that list. After his death in a car crash, Dean became the first actor to receive a posthumous Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, and remains the only actor to have had two posthumous acting nominations. In 1999, the American Film Institute ranked him the 18th best male movie star of Golden Age Hollywood in AFI's 100 Years, 100 Stars list. So again, this goes to show you the impact that this man had in such a short span of his career. I could get into his acting career, but that's not why we're here. Like I said, the three films he's most connected to are Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant. If you'd like the years on those, Rebel Without a Cause was in 1955. East of Eden was in 1955, and Giant was in 1956. He starred with Elizabeth Taylor in Giant as well. One of the things that James Dean liked to do besides act was he started getting into racing. In 1954, Dean became interested in developing a career in motorsport. He purchased various vehicles after filming East of Eden had concluded, including a Triumph Tiger T100 and a Porsche 356. And again, it goes on to explain his racing career. He was a fairly good racer, from what they're saying. Dean's final race occurred in Santa Barbara on Memorial Day, May 30th, 1955. He was unable to finish the competition due to a blown piston. His brief career was put on hold when Warner Brothers barred him from racing during the production of Giant. Dean had finished shooting his scenes and the movie was in post-production when he decided to race again. So he's like, "Hey, I like this, side hustle that I got going as a racer." And Warner Brothers was pretty much like, "Yeah, no, you're one of our top actors. You're not doing that. You're going to put your life in jeopardy. Not happening." But apparently, being the rebel that he was, decided to go against it anyway. All right, let's see here. Longing to return to the liberating prospects of motor racing, Dean traded in his Speedster for a new one, more powerful and faster. 1955 Porsche 550 Spider, and entered the upcoming Salinas Road Race event scheduled for October 1st to 2nd, 1955. So he purchased the Porsche 550 Spider. Accompanying the actor on his way to the track on September 30th was stunt coordinator Bill Hickman, photographers Sanford Roth and Wolf Wutherich, that sounds the German mechanic from the Porsche factory, who maintained Dean's Spider Little Bastard car. So the car was referred to as Little Bastard. So maybe a little foreshadowing, perhaps. Wutherich had encouraged Dean to drive the car from Los Angeles to Salinas to break it in, accompanied Dean in the car at 3:30 p.m. Dean was ticketed for speeding as Hickman, who was following behind in the car. Little foreshadowing number two, he was stopped for speeding. Okay, so now we're sort of getting somewhere here. As the group was driving westbound on US Route 466, current SR 46, near Colame, California at approximately 5:45, a 1950 Ford Tudor driven by 23-year-old Cal Poly student Donald Turnipseed. I kid you not, his last name is Turnipseed. What a last name. Was traveling east. Turnipseed made a left turn onto Highway 41 heading north towards Fresno, ahead of the oncoming Porsche. Dean, unable to stop in time, slammed into the passenger side of the Ford, resulting in Dean's car bouncing across the pavement onto the side of the highway. Dean's passenger, Wutherich, was thrown from the Porsche, while Dean was trapped in the car and sustained numerous fatal injuries, including a broken neck. Turnipseed exited his damaged vehicle with minor injuries. The accident was witnessed by a number of passerby who stopped to help. A woman with nursing experience attended to Dean and detected a weak pulse. But death appeared to have been instantaneous. So the minute he hit that Ford, it was pretty much all over. Dean was pronounced dead on arrival shortly after he arrived by ambulance at the Paso Robles War Memorial Hospital at 6:20 p.m. Though initially slow to reach newspapers in the East United States, details of Dean's death rapidly spread via radio and television. By October 2nd, his death had received significant coverage from domestic and foreign media outlets. His funeral was held on October 8, 1955, at the Fairmont Friends Church in Fairmont, Indiana. The coffin remained closed due to conceal his severe injuries. An estimated 600 mourners were in attendance, while another 2,400 fans gathered outside the building during the procession. He is buried at Park Cemetery in Fairmont, second row to the right from the main entrance and up the hill on the right facing the drive. Look at that, they even give you details, specific details of where you can go and see the grave of James Dean. An initial inquest into Dean's death occurred 3 days later at the council's chambers in St. Louis Obispo, where the sheriff's coroner jury delivered a verdict that he was entirely at fault due to speeding, and that Turnipseed was innocent of criminal act. So, first initial investigation, it was James Dean's fault that he crashed and died, and it wasn't Turnipseed's. That's bull. However, according to the article in the Los Angeles Times of October 1st, 2005, so we'll fast forward here. A former California Highway Patrol officer who had been called to the scene, Ron Nelson, contradicted reports that Dean had been traveling at 90 miles per hour, stating, "The wreckage and the position of Dean's body indicated his speed at the time of the accident was more like 55 miles per hour." I love how you can actually predict the damage and whose fault it was based off the speed. That's a little interesting there. A James Dean monument has been placed at Shandon next to Highway 46 and stands to this day. So tragically, James Dean, of course, died. Now we have a little insight there. But Justin, where is the mystery? There's no real mystery behind it. Well, I mean, I suppose like the whole like death thing, that in itself is a mystery. Not really a mystery, but like the whole fact that it happened like out of nowhere. It's a little bit of a mystery there, but I'm going to get to the mystery now. So, the curse of James Dean's little bastard Porsche 550 Spider. Get ready to be blown away. James Dean's career as an actor and racing driver was cut short, of course, when his little bastard Porsche 550 Spider was involved in a catastrophic collision on his way to a race. This we know. Dean was killed instantaneously, but little bastard would go on to cause considerably more trouble. So, James Dean was the first person that this car killed, but by no means would he be the last. In fact, little bastard had caused upset almost from the moment Dean bought it. A week before the fatal crash, Dean met British actor Alec Guinness in Los Angeles. Guinness had an ominous feeling on seeing the Porsche and would later write in his diary, "The sports car looked sinister to me. Exhausted, hungry, feeling a little ill-tempered in spite of Dean's kindness. I heard myself saying in a voice I could hardly recognize as my own, 'Please never get in it. If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week.'" I just got chills reading that. This guy, who's by no means a Nostradamus, took one look at that car and an inner voice, a voice not even his own, told him, "James, don't get involved with that car. Never mind get in it. Don't even be like crazy." Dean laughed it off and set about preparing the car for the Salinas sports car races with his Porsche mechanic Rolf Wutherich. Enlisting stuntman Bill Hickman to help out, the original plan was to tow Little Bastard to the races, but Wutherich felt it would be better for Dean to get used to the Spider and run the engine in. On that fateful Friday, Wutherich sat next to Dean while Hickman followed his truck, and of course we know the outcome. Just scrolling down because we already know the outcome, and I by no means want to repeat myself. All right. Despite being declared a total loss by the insurance company, the car was sold on and would continue to cause carnage wherever it, or even parts of it, went. Dr. William Esrich bought the Porsche from a salvage yard in Burbank and proceeded to strip it for parts. Esrich installed the Porsche's engine into his Lotus IX race car, then loaned the transmission and suspension parts to fellow doctor and racer Troy McHenry. Esrich crashed the Lotus at the 1956 Sonoma sports races, surviving. But McHenry wasn't as lucky. He hit a tree and was killed in the same race, and so the curse of Little Bastard gained strength. So, casualty number 2 is one Troy McHenry. The doctor survived, but I imagine he probably sustained some serious injuries, and it probably scared the living daylights out of him, and he probably never wanted to step in the car again. I don't know, but I'm probably going to assume. Dean's Porsche carried on. Shortly after the crash, publicity monger and self-proclaimed king of customs, George Barris bought the Spider, promising to rebuild it. When the mangled frame was found to be beyond recovery, Barris chose to capitalize on the car's notoriety. The Porsche was loaned to the Los Angeles chapter of National Safety Council, and from 1957 to 1959 it went on a gruesome tour of car shows, cinemas, and bowling alleys. They had car shows at bowling alleys in the 50s? I guess I can see that. Bowling alleys were kind of big in the 50s. Still weird to have a car show in a bowling alley parking lot. But anyway, in March of 1959, while in storage in Fresno, the car mysteriously caught fire. It suffered remarkably little damage, 2 melted tires and some singed paint, and fortunately the fire didn't spread to other vehicles in storage. Meanwhile, Barris had sold a pair of tires from the 550, and both reportedly blew at the same time, causing the new owner to career off the road. So parts of this thing are in other cars, and it's still just causing mayhem and mischief and carnage. Mayhem, mischief, and carnage. Oh my. There are other unconfirmed stories of Little Bastard's post-accident life. The car is said to have fallen from its display while on show in Sacramento, breaking the hip of a bystander. The Spider also reportedly fell on and killed George Barkas, the driver who transported it to a road safety expo. Finally, the Porsche is rumored to have disappeared from a sealed boxcar in 1960 while en route from Miami to Los Angeles. Some believe that Barris, ever the showman, fabricated that story as a way to keep the car's mystique alive. Despite $1 million reward for the information being offered in 2005, the whereabouts of the Porsche 550 Spider remain unknown. With Barris himself now gone and no sign of the car for 60 years, the end of Little Bastard's haunting story may never be revealed. They don't know where the car is to this day. And I have to say, that's probably a good thing, right? Whatever's left of that hunk of metal junk doesn't need to be known, you know? Look at all these stories. And without repeating myself, let's get into the reason we're here, shall we? The mystery. Why is the car so haunting? But before we answer that question, let us ask the first question here. Alec Guinness, the man who James Dean showed the car to, he was the one that had this creepy feeling about the car. So even before James Dean got in the car, somebody at least had the feeling that this car was evil. You know, long before Christine was written by Stephen King, this car was inflicting damage all over the United States. So maybe the car was already evil before James Dean decided he was going to get it, because Alec Guinness proved that. I think after James Dean became the first casualty, I think the car likely, whatever you want to call them on haunted objects, however you want to think haunted objects, you know, what they can do, are they haunting, whatever you want to call that, I think it's definitely the case here. And the more people that came across this car, that came across parts of this car, they felt the wrath of it, not just Dean. So I think this is true. Excuse me. Even the unconfirmed stories to me are kind of jarring because there's detail in it. And I know it says that Barris fabricated the stories, but like there's details in there that you just can't, like, why would you fabricate a story about somebody dying at an expo showing the car off? Like that doesn't make any sense. Either the guy died by any means associated with the car, then particularly there's a percentage there you have to blame the car because the car has a history. So I don't think it's fabricated by any means. I think this is legit. I think this car, since it killed James Dean, it just kept looking for people and victims to kill. Simple as that. One thing I will say that's not in this, but one of the reasons I actually wanted to do this story was, well, for one, like the whole, like, you know, James Dean was 24 when he died. Like that's crazy. You know, it's like one of those. It's part of the reason that they, to this day, we have those infamous like 50s movies where, you know, you see this kid, this teenage kid in his car and he drives it off the bridge. Like I imagine that's probably where Hollywood got that whole idea. You know, like James Dean, even though his car didn't drive off of a bridge, but you get the idea, like dying young. That's where they got that. But another reason I wanted to do this story was, it's not written here, but I actually remember an episode, I want to say, of Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, back in the day. And there was a story about a kid who had purchased James Dean's car, and he had gotten the title of the car, and they listed like the previous owners. I might be butchering this story, but he found out that the car belonged to James Dean, and he found out that every person that had owned it since he had owned it, either something happened to them or they died. And I think at the end of the story, he either he died or he got fatally injured, whichever, and the story was actually true. So again, that's probably one of those unconfirmed stories, but that always fascinated me, that episode of Beyond Belief, because it was like, wait a minute, this is a real thing. And if you want to think about it, James Dean's 550 Spider is very similar to the Hope Diamond. It's just one of those objects that anybody who possesses it, something bad happens. Also, I'm going to throw this into the mix. Rudolph Valentino's ring. So, 20s actor Rudolph Valentino had a ring, and anybody who had the ring after his death, something bad happened to them or they died. Hope Diamond, anybody who had it, something bad happened to them or they died. James Dean's car, anybody who had it after him, something bad happened to them or they died. And that's the only time I'm going to say that because I don't want to risk repeating myself. God help me. But you get the idea. Haunted objects, there's something there. If you don't want to believe it, hey, that's fine. But there's a reason that the people don't. There's a reason that we now go to a museum, and the Hope Diamond is encased in like 2 layers of glass. That's not because we don't believe. Nobody knows where Rudolph Valentino's ring is, and also nobody knows where James Dean's car is. And again, that's probably a good thing. Why would you want to know where a haunted car is? I don't know. That's weird. So, the mystery here, why is the car haunted? Why has it taken so many lives? Well, I don't think we have the answer to that, and that's why I think that this case remains unsolved. A little bit of a change, but again, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mystery Unsolved. And of course, it is the last episode of season 3. Of course, my YouTube channel probably doesn't show that. People are going to go to YouTube and be like, Justin, there's only like 12 videos here. That's because I did like parts of the first and second season over on Instagram, which I'm trying to get over there, but I'm not tech savvy. But anyway, that's another story. Stay tuned next week for the first season of the sub show of Mystery Ghost Stories, where I will be talking just like I do on this platform of Mystery Unsolved. Same setup. The only difference is the topic. And the topic, it's a mystery. Some of them are mystery unsolved, but I call it Mystery Ghost Stories because they all are there. They are all, of course, similar because of ghosts. And next week, on the first episode of Mystery Ghost Stories, we will be going to the Queen Mary. That is a ghost ship. So stay tuned for that. Again, I hope you all enjoy I hope you enjoy this video. For those that watch this on the playback over on YouTube, you know the deal. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, tell others, please. I could definitely use a lot more views, so it would be much appreciated. This has been Justin Bienvenu on Mystery Unsolved, and until next week.